So, Serena Joy's story is finally over, and I'm sitting here with my head in my hands. Because, wow, what a journey! After 6 seasons of watching this brilliantly manipulative, utterly infuriating woman go from Gilead's architect to its ultimate victim, her finale left me completely emotionally wrecked. I can't believe they took the woman who literally wrote the laws that stripped her of her own rights and ended her story in a refugee camp with nothing but a shopping bag and her son. And that moment when she looked at Ofgabriel and said, "She's not a vessel, she's a human being." The same woman who held June's hands down during her rape ceremonies? I'm still processing the whiplash of watching someone's soul slowly crack open over 6 years. Let's break down how Serena Joy Waterford went from penning her own cage to finally recognizing the humanity she spent years denying, and why her ending, messy as it is, might be the most honest and poetic conclusion we could have gotten.
Going into season 6, Serena was already on the run with baby Noah, having escaped the Wheelers' Handmaid light imprisonment. And let me tell you, that experience of being treated like a prisoner by Gilead's sympathizers was the wake-up call she desperately needed. But what I wasn't prepared for was watching her get recruited by Commander Lawrence as an ambassador for New Bethlehem, this supposed liberal version of Gilead. The woman who once burned her bed in symbolic rejection of her past was suddenly back in the game promoting a reformed Gilead on the world stage. The pivotal moment that changed everything came when she married Commander Gabriel Wharton in what can only be described as a public spectacle. Initially, this looked like classic Serena, using marriage as a strategic alliance for protection and influence. But then Wharton dropped the bombshell that completely shattered her. He intended to bring a handmaid, Ofgabriel, into their household. This is where Serena's finale journey gets absolutely heartbreaking. The woman who once orchestrated the ceremony, who held down June's hands during those horrific rituals, looked at Ofgabriel and said she's not a vessel. She's a human being. When she urged that handmaid to flee, it wasn't manipulation. It was genuine recognition of the humanity she'd spent years denying in others. Then episode 9 happened, and everything exploded. Literally. Wharton, Lawrence, and Nick all died in that plane explosion, leaving Serena alone with Noah once again. In the series finale, we find her scavenging through donation piles at the Boston Globe headquarters, reduced to looking for clothes for Noah among charity items. When June finds her there, the power dynamic that had defined their relationship for 6 seasons was completely inverted.
Looking back at where Serena started, this far-right cultural activist who authored A Woman's Place and literally helped plan the terrorist attacks that created Gilead, her journey to that refugee camp represents one of the most profound character transformations I've ever seen. But here's what made Serena so fascinating from the very beginning. She was never just a villain. She was a woman who had written her own cage, penning the very laws that stripped her of the right to read, to work, to have agency. The woman who once believed she'd retain power in the system she helped build ended up being betrayed by that very system over and over. What breaks my heart is how her disillusionment wasn't born from some sudden moral awakening. It was forged through personal suffering. When Serena dared to read scripture publicly and lost a finger for it, we saw the first crack in her faith in Gilead. This wasn't just physical punishment. It was the moment she truly understood that the system she helped create would never see her as an equal. Being excluded from government planning despite being Gilead's co-architect, watching her own book get symbolically discarded. And remember, according to Yvonne Strahovski herself, Serena's cruelty toward June in season 1 stemmed from knowing Fred had already cheated with the previous handmaid. She was taking out her betrayal and jealousy on June from day 1. Each betrayal by the regime she created was another crack in her ideological foundation. The thematic resolution here is devastating and perfect. Serena's ending reflects the show's central themes about how patriarchal systems ultimately consume even their female architects. She didn't get a heroic redemption arc. She got consequences. Real, lived-in, difficult consequences where she had to rebuild her entire understanding of humanity. But here's what's crucial. Her final transformation was driven entirely by motherhood. When she looked at Ofgabriel and saw a human being instead of a vessel, that wasn't about June or guilt. That was about Noah. She realized that in a world where handmaids exist, her son would grow up normalizing that dehumanization. Her love for Noah became the catalyst that finally broke through decades of ideological conditioning.
When we think about what drives Serena Joy, it's tempting to reduce her to simple selfishness. But that's too easy. What Serena wants, more than anything, is sovereignty over her own life, her child's future, and her place in the world. She's motivated by a toxic combination of religious fervor, intellectual pride, and maternal instinct. As Yvonne Strahovski herself revealed, I really do love her because I'm the person who understands her the most. This understanding is crucial because Serena's motivations have evolved dramatically across three core drives: power, motherhood, and survival. Early seasons showed her driven by ideology and a desperate need for a child. Now, with Noah in her arms and Gilead crumbling around her, she's motivated by something more primal, a mother's need to protect, even if it means burning down everything she once believed in. The events of episode 9 stripped away her last illusions about power within Gilead, leaving only her maternal instincts and survival skills to guide her through the finale.
The relationship conclusions are equally powerful. Her final interaction with June wasn't about power anymore. It was about two mothers who had been shaped by the same brutal system. When Serena said, "I'm ashamed," and "I'm sorry, and if words mean anything at all, I am sorry," she wasn't performing. After 6 seasons of manipulation, this was the first time we saw Serena speak from genuine remorse rather than strategic calculation. But what makes her finale even more complex is how it sets up her uncertain future with Mark Tuello. Throughout the series, their relationship has been this fascinating dance of mutual manipulation. Mark, who admitted he's been in love with who Serena was before Gilead, consistently offering her deals and protection, while Serena strategically uses his feelings to secure advantages. In the finale, when Tuello arranges her relocation to that UN refugee camp, it's the culmination of their morally ambiguous dynamic. She's neither fully free nor imprisoned, existing in this gray zone where her usefulness as an intelligence asset might outweigh demands for justice. It's classic Serena. Even at her lowest point, she's found someone whose conflicted feelings she can leverage for survival. The most powerful aspect of Serena's ending was its unflinching realism. Seeing her in that refugee camp with all her possessions in a plastic shopping bag, not even a nice one, was devastating but earned. The show didn't give her a martyrdom or a triumphant escape. She got exactly what she deserved, a chance to start over with nothing but the love for her child. And can we talk about the full circle moment? Yvonne Strahovski revealed that back in season 1, she improvised that terrifying scene where Serena gets down on her hands and knees to intimidate June, making that spontaneous decision to physically descend to June's level to create maximum menace. Now, in the finale, it's Serena who's been brought low, scavenging through donation piles, completely powerless. The visual poetry of that transformation is just chef's kiss. I loved how they addressed the central question that's haunted Serena's character. Can someone who enabled such systematic cruelty ever truly change? The answer the show gives us is complex and mature. Yes, she can change, but change doesn't erase consequences. Her transformation doesn't magically undo the trauma she inflicted or grant her absolution from her victims. What worked brilliantly was how they showed her evolution through action, not just words. When she urged Ofgabriel to flee, when she chose Noah's well-being over her own status, when she apologized without making excuses. These weren't calculated moves.
They were genuine moments of growth from someone who had finally learned to see other people as fully human.
Now, this is where fans are genuinely divided. But I have to say, June's forgiveness felt completely earned to me. Yes, some viewers argue that Serena's crimes were too severe for any redemption, and I get that perspective. But what those critics might be missing is that June's ability to forgive wasn't about absolving Serena. It was about June's own incredible growth beyond the cycle of trauma and revenge. When June said, "I forgive you," she wasn't saying Serena's actions were okay. She was choosing to break the chain of hatred that could have consumed her forever. That's not weakness or being too generous. That's the kind of emotional strength that takes 6 seasons to build. June forgave Serena not because Serena deserved it, but because June deserved to be free from carrying that anger. And after everything Serena went through, losing Fred, losing her status, experiencing oppression firsthand, being separated from Noah, this ending honors her journey toward accountability while making her face the full weight of what she'd done. The poetic justice isn't that she suffered eternally, but that she had to build a completely new life based on who she chose to become rather than who she used to be.
In the end, Serena Joy will be remembered as the character who showed us the true face of complicity, how intelligent, capable people can become architects of their own oppression and still find their way back to humanity. She represented every woman who has ever championed systems that ultimately harm women, believing they'll somehow be exempt from the consequences. Her impact on the story was proving that even someone who enables systematic dehumanization can learn to recognize the full humanity of others. The lasting change she created was showing us that monsters aren't born. They're made by systems, circumstances, and choices. Her journey from forcing handmaids through rape ceremonies to telling Ofgabriel, "You're not a vessel, you're a human being," represents one of the most powerful redemption arcs in television. She didn't just survive Gilead's collapse, she helped cause it, and in doing so, proved that people can change, even when that change comes at an enormous cost. Without Serena's complexity, The Handmaid's Tale would have been a much simpler show. She forced us to grapple with the uncomfortable reality that monsters aren't born. They're made by systems, circumstances, and choices. Her evolution showed us that people can change, but that change is painful, costly, and doesn't erase the harm they've caused.
So what did you think of Serena's ending? Are you satisfied with how her story concluded? Or did you want something different for the woman who helped architect Gilead? Let me know your favorite Serena moment from the series. Was it her recognition of Ofgabriel's humanity, her genuine apology to June, or that heartbreaking final scene with Noah in the refugee camp? Drop a comment if you're still emotional about seeing the former Mrs. Waterford reduced to a homeless, nationless, but somehow finding peace in the simplest form of love, a mother's love for her child.